Please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. The program is about to begin. Please take your seats. The program is about to begin. Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's Matt Miller.
Thank you so much. Hope you all had a fantastic morning and a great lunch. Got to stretch your legs out, got to meet some cool people. We have still got an amazing afternoon program for you, and this is what I'm most excited about. So normally I anchor Bloomberg Open Interest every weekday, 9 to 11. We focus on public markets, stocks, bonds, private markets, and all of the sort of finance stuff. I've been at Bloomberg for 26 years, but honestly, the highlight of my career, what gives me the most joy, is working with my colleague Hannah Elliott from Bloomberg Pursuits on our podcast that focuses only on cars. It's called Hot Pursuit, Bloomberg Hot Pursuit. So if you don't listen to it, search it and listen to it. We've been doing it for about a year and a half now, and it is always the greatest part of my day when I get to do it. Also, we have both been super excited for a long time to talk to Susie Wolff. You know her from the F1 Academy, you know her from Formula E, and she has a new book out, if you haven't seen it yet, called Driven, which Hannah and I are both a little bit obsessed with. So please welcome to the stage Susie Wolff and Hannah Elliott.
Susie, it is I echo Matt's sentiments. It is such an honor and a pleasure to have you here. And it's also just really fun because I feel like we can talk to you about any number of things and go any direction. But I want to start with your book, just because that is front of mind for me. I've started reading it. It's called Driven. It's fabulous. You're also going to be speaking about it tonight at the Fillmore, we should say, in conjunction with Live Nation. So anyone who wants to also attend that, I think, can Google it, search it. But I read comments in the media where you kind of said you never thought you would write a memoir. And I'm curious why you, in all of your history and everything you've done, thought that you wouldn't write a book about your own life.
Well, firstly, hello everybody. It's wonderful to be here. I've just arrived in Miami. Thank you to Bloomberg for hosting me. And it's such an exciting week to be in Miami. I love the Miami Grand Prix, even though the F1 Academy is not racing this weekend. And yes, here, predominantly because Driven, my book, launched in the US just on Tuesday. And it's such a funny question that you asked, because I guess I have so much on my plate with other things that I thought writing a book is a lot of work. So I didn't really see myself having the capacity. But the background story at the end of 2024, when we were just trying to get the momentum around F1 Academy, and for those of you that don't know what it is, it's a race series for young women, because we're trying to challenge the preconception that it's still a man's world, that it's macho. And I had this idea that it would be great to have a children's book of a little girl that raced, that parents could read to their daughters, that helped change the mindset shift of who belongs in racing. And I went to meet the six big publishers in London, and all of them had the same feedback for me. Well, we can do a children's book, but first you need to write your book. And at the time I thought I have zero capacity to write a book, but I went home to Scotland for Netflix filming, of all things, for Drive to Survive. And I was sitting with my brother, who's a film director. He's the creative one in the family. And we were catching up, and I said, I went to meet some publishing houses, and they said I should write a book. And he said, that's super interesting. You know, if you would write a book, and how could it look, and the stories. And I suddenly sat there and thought, I will write a book, and I'm going to do it together with you. So I wrote the book together with my brother. Way more work than I anticipated.
Yes.
And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so 9 drafts later, my publisher eventually said, it's done. This is the final version. Now we need to get the book out. But it feels like with the cultural shift happening in F1, I mean, 42% of the global fan base is now female. The fastest growing fan demographic is the 18 to 24-year-old female. It felt like the right time to tell the story, because the sport that I competed in 2015, 2014, it's very different to the sport we see now, and that's something which I think F1 should take credit for, because they've put a lot of investment into F1 Academy, and we've just seen this big shift where we just have such a strong female fan base that also makes good business for us to connect with.
I wonder, we always talk to big CEOs and we've interviewed Toto, for example, on our podcast, team, principals, and I'm always interested in where you came from. And you have, I think, an especially interesting story in the Stoddard family and a motorcycle dealership in Scotland. It sounds so much fun. And also only in Great Britain do you have these mothers that are caning their children down the ski slopes, and encouraging them to do these extreme sports. And, if you fall down, get up, walk it off, you're going to be fine. Tell us about how you grew up and what made you want to pursue a career in racing and a career in this sport.
You're not painting a very good light on my mother here.
She's a real badass.
I think it's awesome. It sounds great.
I actually want to read about her life as well, I should say.
Well, when I look back, I mean, how many of you in the audience have children? I don't want to say you look old, so maybe you have children, but okay, that's good. I think when I look back at my childhood, you're right, I had a mother. I mean, my mum met my dad when she bought her first motorbike from his shop. She used to race quads. So I grew up seeing a mother who was equal to my father. She ran her own business. And I have a brother who's only 15 months older than me. So where I'm so thankful when I look back, my parents never differentiated between son and daughter. It was never that my brother should get a motorbike and I should go off and play with a horse or with Barbie. I wanted a motorbike too, I got one. He raced, if I wanted to race, I raced. And a lot of people presume I was a little tomboy, but I loved Barbie, I loved pink, but I also loved racing. And they very much brought me up in an environment where I never once thought I was doing anything unusual for a girl. And the great thing about my sport is you wear a helmet. So actually when you're out on track, you don't see who your competitors are. And the great thing about sport is it's so pure. The result sheets count. So it didn't matter that I was the only girl out there. What mattered was how fast I was and if I was going to be able to compete at the front. But that environment that I grew up with, this toughness of you fall down, well, you dust yourself off and you pick yourself back up. And I'm so thankful I got that tenacity, because that definitely was probably the most important trait while I was racing. And I've realized in the world of business, it's also been a great tool.
I wanted to ask about that. It seemed very normalized in your family that you would do everything, of course, that your brother did, but also that your parents did, whether it was skiing or swimming, motorbikes, karting. How important do you think it was for becoming who you are today that all of that was normalized across the board and there were no exceptions? And did you ever find a moment where you actually wished your parents might have actually carved out a little of a safety net for you? Did it ever feel that, oh, this is too much?
It never did, because they never pushed us. It was very much, there are the possibilities. If you work hard, you can be successful, and we're here to catch you if you ever fall. And even to this day, you know, I'm here in Miami with Toto. We've been in New York. It's my parents who are looking after my son. So they've really been such a support network, and without a doubt, I wouldn't be who I am today and where I am today without that foundation of love and support. And that environment that very much gave me that ambition and drive to say, well, I want to achieve, and there's no reason why I can't achieve if I work hard enough. So I definitely think our childhood plays such a big part in who we become, and also that they exposed me to the world of racing and what was possible. Because when I raced karts, I was racing at an international level, but as a youngster, you're not really thinking about the future or your career. But they took me to watch a Formula 3 race when I was 13. There was a young English driver called Jenson Button who won on that day. Of course, he went on to be pretty successful. But that's when I suddenly thought, I want to be a racing driver. I want to try and make it to Formula 1. And I had all these pictures on my wall of F1 drivers. Clearly, they were all men. But I look back at that little girl and I think to myself, did you not realize there was no other woman racing? And I didn't. It never once really occurred to me that I was the only woman. And of course, as my career progressed and the media attention around my success and my journey increased, it became so much about me being a woman. But I was just out there to be the best racing driver I could be. But suddenly the bigger story was the fact that I was a woman.
By the way, we've had Jensen on our podcast as well.
Yes.
In case you're
Nice
wondering.
guy.
Woman or man, I think I would be scared because you're driving. I mean, no one ever talks about this, right? Because we all watch racing and we're all involved to some extent in this story, but it is dangerous. You're driving very fast, and if you want to win, you have to be willing to make certain sacrifices with your safety, right? Have you never thought, like, especially like after you got married and had a kid, like maybe, you know, I shouldn't be driving this quickly?
Well, I became a mother after I stopped racing, and I'm definitely glad I did it in that order, because I think that would be tough. I never once worried or had fear. I mean, I think people presume racing drivers are really, you know, risk takers, but it's always calculated risk. We always know where the limit is. Clearly, to get onto pole position and be at the front, you need to be on the very edge of what's possible in a racing car. But I think it's more getting comfortable in the uncomfortable, because pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, getting to that stage, whether you're in a racing car or any other point in your life, that's where you kind of, the rewards are the biggest. And there was many points in my racing career, now my business career, where I threw myself in the deep end. It was uncomfortable, but I knew that was the moment where I would develop and grow the most. And I think as a racing driver, you never once actually think, this is dangerous, because you're pushing for all the marginal gains out on track. And we're very lucky, and we don't take this for granted, that the sport is so much more safe now than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And touch wood, we don't see fatal accidents nearly as often as in the past. So I think the sport, from a safety perspective, has also moved on.
Are you a big risk taker in other parts of your life too? Like in business or in investing, are you willing to take big risks?
I'm only willing to take big risks if I can cope with the worst case outcome. And I always calculate what the worst case outcome is. So I'm very decisive, and I'm happy to take risks, but only if I can cope with what the worst case scenario would be.
I did want to ask about that too, and this kind of hinges on that question, the idea of control. Because when you start the book, you set us, we're in the car with you, the F1 car, you're doing the laps, and you kind of are saying the only thing I can't control is the weather. The only thing I can't. Good thing the Brits and the Scots are good in the wet. And it made me think, are you a control freak? And is that bad? Is that good? And actually, how does that translate into your success in your career off the track as well?
I don't think I'm a control freak, but I like to control the controllables. Because I feel that in those moments of high pressure, it comes down to preparation. You know, I always like to put myself in the best possible position for success, which means the hard work and the preparation in the background, that's me. You know, there's nothing I haven't thought of. And I'm meticulous and I'm very disciplined, which drives my husband mad sometimes.
But isn't he the same? Wouldn't he be the same?
He is the same, but I always say, you know, there's East Coast time, there's European time, and then there's total time. And it's always 10 minutes after the hour. He can never get somewhere on time, despite being Austrian and quite meticulous. But I think that was just who I was always. It was in my character. So clearly being in a sport where it's all about precision, it probably got worse the longer I was in racing. And of course, Formula One, everything is down to the last detail. That's why I love the environment so much, but it probably didn't help my OCD.
I want to ask a little bit about control in driving and about the current formula and regulations, because I'm a bad driver on track, and I know that because
you're like a man admitting he's a bad driver.
Well,
that is so unusual.
Fair.
I respect you for that.
I feel like I know intuitively I should always be either on the gas or on the brakes, right? I want to be controlling the load. And there shouldn't be a point where I'm lifting and coasting, right? Which is what I do too
So you've got
often.
the theory correct.
But now there are drivers who say they have to do that too much, especially in qualifying. You know, they have to stop and harvest the energy, you know. And I just wonder, what is your take on that? Because you worked so long in Formula E, and that is really an energy management exercise, right? But usually Formula One is like a limit driver exercise, and now it's become resource management as well.
It's a difficult one. I think people have varying opinions. I'm obviously in a situation now where I run a race series. So for me, fundamentally, it's about creating exciting racing. You need cars being able to overtake. You need to see an exciting race. And I think Formula One in the past was exciting to watch. There's some races, obviously, where we get unlucky and there's not a lot of action.
There's Monaco.
There's Monaco, terrible, exactly. But I also think it's about the challenge. And clearly this is a new challenge for the drivers. I think it's interesting that the drivers that are complaining, I mean, you go down the grid of results and they get...
Are we going to name names?
The complaints get louder the further down the grid you go. But I understand, you know, people are sometimes resistant to change, and this is a big change. But the world is changing. You know, electrification is part of where we are in the automotive industry, and we as a sport need to reflect that. So I think what's happened now is there's been a small tweak to the regulations for this weekend, but I think we will find our rhythm. I think fundamentally, as long as the racing is great, the drivers will get used to it, and there's definitely no way that the cars are easier to drive than in the past. It's probably much more mentally taxing for the drivers to do energy management and have that to manage alongside putting a quick lap in. But I certainly enjoy seeing just how much action there is out on track now, and that might create more action at Monaco.
It doesn't seem like artificial passing is enabled by this sort of yo-yo boost use. And then, of course, it's dangerous, right? If you have this super clipping where Ollie Behrman has to like avoid Colapinto and slam into a wall.
I think with the lifting and coasting, I mean, it's still an ultimate lap time. So whoever does it best will be the quickest driver. But I think that is the new challenge within the sport. And before we had DRS, but that was also an artificial tool to overtake. We have the limitations of the tires, which stop a driver pushing. So I think there will always be factors that will be the limitation to a driver getting the ultimate lap time, but it's still going to be the driver that copes best within a set of regulations that will be world champion at the end of the year, and it's best man and best machine. Hopefully one day best woman.
Yeah, this is perfect. This is a perfect segue, because we should talk about F1 Academy and what you talk about change, you talk about progress. What are you seeing that indicate, okay, we're getting some traction with this, we're moving forward, we're evolving, we're advancing? Give us an overview of what you see where we are now.
So how many of you have heard of F1 Academy? That's pretty good. That's encouraging. I think we've seen this big shift culturally in the sport, where there's just so much more female interest in motorsport, which I love to see, because I was a little girl that loved racing, and I don't think there's any reason why women shouldn't embrace and enjoy the sport. And I have to give a lot of credit to F1 because it recognized this growing female fan base. It gave F1 Academy the platform and all the investment we needed to get up and running and create positive impact to see more women entering the sport. And I knew for it to be successful long term, it had to make business sense. And we're in the situation now where commercially there's a great return on investment. There are so many female-focused brands that want to come into this space, that want to activate, that want to talk to the fan base. And that's what's given us such a strong foundation, because the change will take time, but we've created this really strong impact in such a short space of time that's allowed us to see a lot of momentum.
What about the drivers themselves? How are you personally tracking and charting their progress? And even, I don't want to use the word coaching, but are you personally involved in helping them advance and refine their skills?
The great thing is we have a database of all female competitors worldwide that are competing, because in F1 Academy we always want to have the best 18 drivers. There's a high financial barrier to entry, and in F1 Academy we fund over 80% of every driver, which means it's a huge opportunity for any given young driver, and for us it's to make sure that we have the best 18 in any given season. And we have a great team. We have a talent development manager that's only looking to make sure that these drivers are given the right support. We have the 5 best junior teams who also compete in F2 and F3, have created F1 world champions in their junior years. So we have definitely put an environment in place where talent can excel and that talent can be nurtured. Will then be us taking our champion and the most talented and making sure that she can rise up through the sport and on the way to Formula One.
Do you think if you had had that when you were younger, you may have gone even further down the road in your own career?
I never really look back and wonder. I definitely see the sports in a much better place now than it was when I competed. But I mean, 3 years ago we were here with F1 Academy, and after the race, which was 2 hours before the Formula One, the driver who had won the race, she was waiting to go on the podium, and I stood next to Stefano Domenicali, the CEO of F1, and she had a kind of tear in her eye, and she said, I just can't believe I'm about to go and stand on a podium at the Miami Grand Prix. And Stefano and I looked at each other and had a real sense of pride, because I suddenly thought, imagine an 18-year-old female driver, she had the race suit of an F1 team on, going to stand on a podium at the Miami Grand Prix. I could only have dreamed of that opportunity when I was a young driver, but I also felt such a sense of pride that we've come so far in the sport that was possible.
By the way, I think, there are a lot of people who maybe chauvinists who will say, like, women aren't strong enough, to compete with men in car racing and also in motorbikes. Hannah and I have been following, and I actually met this racer, Kayla Yakov.
Yes.
She's a motorcycle
Incredible.
racer. She recently was the first woman to podium at the Daytona 200, which is a grueling event. And she recently was the first woman to win pole position in a Moto America race. And she's a tiny little thing, right? But she's amazing. How long do you think it's going to be until we start to see women taking podiums, winning races in, MotoGP, in F1? Because clearly there's no physical, hindrance that would stop them. Clearly they can and should be able to compete. So how long until we actually see it, start seeing it?
It's really interesting the word you used, she's tiny. The great thing about motorsport is it doesn't come down to your size and your muscle mass or your muscle power, because the smaller and more compact you are, the more of an advantage it is. And that's why motorsport is one of the few sports alongside sailing and horse riding or jumping where men can compete with women. Because I'm the first to admit, I can't take on a man in a 100-meter race because he has 30% more muscle than me. But I don't believe this sport comes down to pure power. And if you look at the current F1 drivers, Lando Norris, Kimi Antonelli, they're tiny. So I think physically, there's no reason why a woman can't compete in MotoGP or in Formula One. In Formula One, you have power steering. It doesn't even take a lot of strength to turn the wheel. It's G-force, which is the most challenging. But we had Dorian Pain, our F1 Academy champion, drive a Mercedes F1 car for the first time last week. 68 laps, no issue physically. So we do still have that undercurrent of chauvinistic opinions in the paddock that say, women. But I think the shift is happening, and the more talent we get entering, the more chance we have of the best competing at the very top.
But it's like 3 years, 4 years,
5 You want to nail me down here, right? I would like to think, I always feel bad when I say the next 5 to 10 years, because I think for the young girls competing now, they think, well, I don't believe that they're capable, which I don't want to say, but I do think we're on the right trajectory, and within 5 to 8 years, it's, I think, going to happen.
Cool.
Can't wait.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you
really
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
Have a lovely weekend.
And
Please welcome to the stage Dan Towriss, CEO of TWG Motorsports, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Hannah Elliott.
Dan, it's so good to have you here. Thank you for
Thanks
coming.
for having me.
And I think you drove up this morning from Fort Lauderdale, so kind of in your backyard.
Backyard, yeah, this is great.
So
This place.
let's talk about Miami. I mean, it feels like all eyes are on Miami right now. We've had a bit of a lull in the racing action. This is kind of Cadillac's home field. This feels like very much a debut. Tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about the race going into the weekend and what it means for Cadillac to be here.
Yeah, I mean, there has been this lull in Formula One. We didn't race in April, and so everyone's been preparing for this moment. So it kind of almost puts the Miami race in a different posture. We're back racing again. It's so important, and this is such an important race. But for Cadillac, this is our first time to race on U.S. soil. New team, first race in the U.S. We couldn't be more excited about that. With chance to continue to connect with U.S. fans and then show them what the new Cadillac Formula One team looks like.
Tell me a little bit about the fan activation you've got going on. You mentioned it. I know it's a huge deal. I think it's free for everybody. Yep. How did this concept come up? Why is it so important for Cadillac to have something that is free and accessible to everyone in the city this weekend?
Yeah, with all the excitement around Formula One, we want to make sure that it's the entertainment's accessible, that building communities, as we think about how do we grow Formula One, how do we grow the fan base in the U.S., how do we grow the fan base for Cadillac, and it really starts with building community around that, and so giving people access to the team to see what Cadillac's about, access to the drivers.
Are the drivers going to be there at some point?
They might.
Okay.
They might.
I mean, if you want to say any dates or times, you can let us know.
Yeah. So it's, but yeah, it's really exciting to be able to do that, here in Miami, and everything that Cadillac is doing as well. It's just, it's an exciting activation for us.
So that old saying, race on Sunday, sell on Monday, or win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Is that true? Is that kind of what you're getting at, that like all of this feeds into selling Cadillac cars necessarily, or is this more about the motorsport?
This is really about the motorsport. I mean, we're building a fan base for Cadillac Formula One.
Racing.
For the Formula One team. Obviously, if we do a great job of that, I think it will impact the auto brand, the car brand, and sell cars. But that's not the goal of the team. The goal of the team is to perform on Sunday, and we want to build a fan base at the same time we're doing that.
So on the other end, also Miami is a very expensive, glamorous, very sexy place to be. What is Cadillac doing to also tap into that type of person who wants to come here and have a really major weekend?
Yeah, so we have exclusive parties and special dinner set up throughout the weekend. A big event tomorrow night, and so really for us, we want to check all the boxes. We want to be able to provide that premium elite experience, the VVIP experience, but at the same time, have that accessibility that builds community in the fan base.
And we talked a little bit upstairs about your drivers. You really have, between Valtteri and Checo, these are like kind of the two best personalities in racing, maybe. Tell us a little bit about how they provide value. Obviously, they're driving on the track, but what's the value that they provide off the track? It's kind of like an odd couple in a way.
It really is. Their personalities are so different. Valtteri's dry and kind of crazy, and some of the stunts and things that he does. They're both, but it really starts with they're both, absolutely dead serious about racing. They are here to race, and it was their experience in the car, that drove our choice, to choose them. It was at the British Grand Prix a year ago when it rained, and I say that thinking like we don't know what the forecast looks like for this weekend.
Can't control the weather. Yeah.
And you just saw experience rise to the top. The young guys struggled with how much rain was on track, and it really just showed us the value of experience in Formula One. And so having those two alongside, but it really is an odd couple, type, and we put them in a lot of different situations. They've had to eat hot wings and.
Who won in the hot wings test?
Not the one you would expect.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, and again, Valtteri just went all in. He was taking the biggest bites, and I think, from what I hear, he suffered on the way home.
I'm not going to ask for more details on that. So that's great because, sometimes we hear about all these young drivers doing really well on track, and of course, that is also true, but it's nice to know that there is something to be said for experience, for more of a veteran mentality. And also Sergio, of course, has a huge fan base in Mexico and beyond. I have to imagine that's a big growth market that you see for Cadillac. Is that true, and are there other ones that you're identifying too?
Yeah, absolutely. Checo has a huge fan base. They stop us all over the world in places you wouldn't expect, which is, just absolutely fantastic. Because at the end of the day, you love the passion.
Is that what it is? Is that why he's so, it's just the passion?
Well, it's what he means to Mexico, what he means to the Mexican people. And so they love to support Checo and, wherever he's at. And so, that certainly is huge from that community standpoint. But the fact that the drivers have a following is, again, is part of starting that fan base. Everything with Cadillac Formula One team is starting, from the ground up. And so continuing to build the fan base with, with what we have with Checo and Valtteri is a huge compliment to the team. But again, the reason we picked them is, we're building a team. We brought a lot of experienced people in that are racing the car for the first time. And so you need like a quarterback of sorts that's helping to gel the team, the feedback, developing the car, and working as a singular unit in Formula One. And just the progress, the change, the development that I've seen from Melbourne through Suzuka has just been impressive and been very happy with how the team has progressed. We now have a month off, so we have to see what's going to happen in Miami. The team's been working really hard. Like a lot of other teams, we've got big updates that are coming, that are going to be on the car, and so we'll see how it shakes out over the weekend.
Well, I was going to ask this later, but I'll ask it now because we're kind of going there. Obviously, we've seen the news about General Motors making engines for you guys in 2029, which I don't know if saying it's a gamble is too big of a word, but that there could be more changes coming in the next few years after that. But it seems like it's very important for you and for the team to have an American beating heart in that car, basically. Why is that so essential, especially because it's a huge investment and you might have to change it again?
I mean, this team was really founded out of national pride, that the U.S. have a seat at the table, and that meant all the way across the board. We want to create pathways for American drivers. That doesn't mean that there's earmarked seats for Americans, but we want to make sure that there's a clear pathway for that. We want to have the American-built, design-built power unit in the car as well. And so we're going to have the U.S. headquarters in Indianapolis, and power units are going to be built in Charlotte. We'll have some 600,000 square feet of manufacturing space under roof. There's a huge commitment to infrastructure. And then we're talking about, how do we develop talent? Partnerships with universities and things to develop Formula One talent in the U.S. so that in the future it's a place to be. And so we're looking to redefine what it means to be an American team in Formula One.
That is really exciting to hear that that you are building an ecosystem here. And it's not just about having a brand on a car. This is a from the ground up ecosystem. I'll ask the same question Matt asked Susie earlier. How many years in advance are we looking before we might expect to see an American driver on this American team?
Well, look, we're going to have an American driver racing in F2 this weekend, Colton Herta, who's been a winner in IndyCar. And Colton has shown really strong aptitude for Formula One. He's learning tracks and tires and going through the process. And so there's someone in the wings. There's a long list of development drivers who have potential as well. So it could be soon, but who knows? A Formula One seat has to be earned. It's never given.
It's interesting to hear. I know you played baseball in your past. You really have a wide sporting history. And of course, TWG has oversight over a lot of different sporting teams and leagues. What is the connective tissue here that also now includes Formula One? And how has it been for you in this new field of F1 when you have a huge sporting background and a lot of other things as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you look across those, sports gives us that live entertainment, and so there's, there's huge value in that, and the growth in Major League Baseball or the NBA, has been incredible. We look at the success of the Dodgers, and I think so across the TWG ecosystem, that is the benchmark, right?
The Dodgers? The Dodgers are the benchmark.
It's an incredibly high benchmark.
I live in LA, so I accept that. I'm happy.
Yeah, back-to-back World Series. And so, but again, I think what we look at in each place is, really trying to, you want to have the resources, you want to have the culture, it's attracting the talented people, both, on the field or participating in the sport, as well as, in the back office. We're just trying to build the best, teams we can. These are premier brands. So we think about the Dodgers, Lakers, Cadillac Formula One team. These are premier names in sports. And so, putting all that together is a powerful combination. And there's collaboration across, each of those teams, certainly from a commercial standpoint to say, how can a rising tide lift all boats, across that ecosystem? So
potentially you would give like the Dodgers treatment to Cadillac. Is that what you're saying? In terms of your role, your job?
Yeah. So we're trying to bring the best resources to, to build it up. Like the U.S. headquarters will be, the first-class premier, F1 headquarters. We're not just trying to show up and look like every other team.
Yeah.
We want to build the Formula One team, for the next generation, and so taking the steps now to do that.
What do you think have been the things stopping an American team or an American driver up till now? Is it just about someone with a lot of money deciding, I want an American team and I'm going to build it? Because it's been tried.
I think it's a tough road, right? It means like somewhere between the ages of 6 and 10, you're moving to Europe and racing in the lower series, and and spending most of your the latter part of your childhood in Europe, looking to fighting to get that chance. It's super expensive, and so without the right backing, without the right sponsor, it can be definitely a long road. I mean, there have been others in the past who have done it, so it's not like they're haven't been American drivers, but
sure.
But again, I think with what we're trying to do to bring Formula One to the U.S., not just have the U.S. go to Formula One, we want to continue to create that excitement, to develop drivers that that's young kids who want to be Formula One drivers. As an American, like, I want to drive in Formula One. What do I have to do that? And so to create that pool of talent, because it's such an elite sport. There are so few drivers, 22 drivers that have a seat across the entire motorsport ecosystem. And so how do we make sure that young Americans have that opportunity to develop and have a chance at one of those seats?
And hopefully maybe some of the people that go to the fan zone will get a glimpse of, oh, this is accessible. I can start to see the thread that takes me toward getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, similar to the last conversation with Susie. I mean, I think it starts with sowing those seeds of belief. As a young person, do you see yourself? Do you aspire to that? Because if you don't, there's a good chance you won't get there.
Sure.
And so you want to create that opportunity and that belief and the inspiration to do so, to kids of a very young age, to create that possibility.
So let's talk about this season. I've seen some of your comments. You've likened building an F1 team from scratch to basically sailing a ship while you're building it, or building a ship while you're sailing it. talk to me about, what have been the biggest surprises for you this year? What are the challenges, and what are you hoping to implement even in this race compared to previous races this season?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, complex work streams that are happening, at the same time. Building a car is no joke, designing it, and we're designing it without on-track data. So this is a car that's, built from a computer, and so the team's done an amazing job, with that from that standpoint. And then we've got, like, even you think of HR, so we add 50 people a month. How do you build a culture when
add 50 people a month onboarding to the team?
Yeah, so you think of so today there's around 600 employees in the organization. So at different stages across the year, you've got 10 to 30% of your, depending on what stage we're talking about, of your organization, is changing month in and month out. How do you build a culture around that? And then you want to have even like things like HR, like just the retention and creating a place where the best of the best want to come work. That's its own challenge. There's a real estate development project. We've been hard at work building the operations in Silverstone, building the headquarters in Indianapolis, and the power unit plant, in Charlotte. And when you think of the size and scale of just the real estate project alone, it's big and it's daunting. And so, assembling all those pieces, and then in the early stages, right, just like any other business, it's all hands on deck. The coffee machine shows up and it's boxed up. Who's going to unbox it? Who's going to put it out?
Are you saying you've unboxed a coffee machine, an espresso machine?
I might have.
Yeah. Someone's got to do it.
It's the fuel that keeps us going, right? And so you start with things like that, but then the organization has to evolve. The organization has to turn into policies, procedures, precision, all these things that happen, so that you have robust process to develop these cars and compete at the highest level of sport. Like, that's not done with kind of ad hoc. So it's almost like something has to evolve from Jimmy's to garage to NASA, in a very short period of time. And how do you do that while you're also producing the very goods that you're talking about? In theory, something of this scale and scope should take years and years to develop.
It has taken years for all these other teams.
Yeah,
I mean, they've got decades.
we got our entry in March of last year.
So what is Cadillac F1 racing culture?
It's grit, right? It's our culture is, we're this underdog culture that that's exceeding expectations. People say, you won't get the car to Barcelona, and we did. We completed all the laps there, and in Bahrain, and then it's like, well, you'll get to Melbourne, but maybe it doesn't. The car doesn't move when the lights go out. It did. You won't be within the 107% of the rule for qualifying. We were well inside of that, and we're competing against other teams, and we're beating other teams even as we start. And so I think across the paddock, we've exceeded expectations of what people thought was possible. Now, having said that, I also see the perspective that was set along the way. I'm like, as I've walked through the factory, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't know just how complicated. I didn't know we had to build this. If I'd have known that back then, I would have been much more intimidated, by what we set out to do. Because it's incredibly complex, but couldn't be more proud of the work that this team has done, and even just seeing the rate of growth. Because for us right now, it's that rate of progress, for the team, of how we're going to improve each week, how quickly are we catching up, to really start to race more and more teams week in and week out.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what indicators are you looking? Obviously, I don't think Cadillac is expected to win the series this year, but there are other indicators to look at that would indicate you're moving towards success. It seems like you've listed a few. Are there other things? Obviously, scoring a point would be good. What standard are you holding yourself to that let you know you're moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think it's really just looking at the rate of progress, and the gap to to the key competitors that we have mapped out in the shop.
Who are those key competitors?
Yeah, well, we'll keep that to ourselves for now.
All right.
But that's a Cadillac secret. But no, but certainly keeping track of that and what that rate of progress is week in and week out. Just how the teams are working together, the quality of the car build. Continuing to develop the relationship with Ferrari, as we're using a Ferrari power unit right now.
Yeah.
And so, all of those things are really key to improving that performance.
Yeah, and it seems like as you move forward, Cadillac is really gaining momentum with the fans, if nothing else. as you're going into this weekend, is there anything that we should all be watching that you think would indicate where Cadillac's headed in the future?
I don't know if there are external factors. I think this is really a bottoms-up approach. I think, again, we've got a great group of partners and VIP guests that are coming in. We've got community-building events. As we're looking across, people just a few blocks away in Jungle Plaza that'll be able to watch qualifying, and the race, in a Cadillac fan zone this weekend. And so all of those things, certainly point towards building up the fan base. We've got a special livery. We designed a special livery that is still within the black and white scheme, but it pays homage to the Stars and Stripes.
Oh, very cool.
But at the same time, we're a brand new team, so we didn't want to have a livery that's such a departure that people for the first time aren't seeing what our car really looks like. And so this was a clever way to blend the two together.
Okay, so last question as we close down. What does this mean for you on a personal level? Just to be here, it's already been a long journey, you said, from when you started and now you're here. Can you just give us some reflections on what it means to be here and what this weekend specifically will mean for you?
Yeah, I think for me personally, this first race on U.S. soil is incredibly meaningful. This was a dream that started over 4 years ago to get into Formula One. It was a long road. There were many days where it didn't look like it was even possible, and all we heard was no, and we had to turn the no into not yet, and build and build and build. And so to finally be here, but it's not a destination. The goal wasn't to get to Miami. It's really just the beginning of what we plan to do. But to be able to plant the flag here in Miami for our first U.S. race, the Miami race is so spectacular. And so to be able to do that here, it's incredibly meaningful, and this is a big, big weekend for Cadillac Formula One.
Well, we're so happy that you chose to spend some time with us today. Thank you, Dan Towriss.
Thank you.
30-minute break, and we'll be back in 30 minutes. So get something to drink or eat.
Please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. The program is about to begin. Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's Matt Miller.
Hello. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have been having a fantastic day. I know I have been having tons of fun today. And I just want to reiterate, this isn't just about the speakers, the guests, the journalists that we have on stage. It's really about meeting each other. I've met a lot of great people at this event, and I'm really excited to increase my coverage of Miami. I hope to be coming down here a lot more. If you have a good story, if you have a good tip, if you think there's something that I'm not covering on my show, I anchor Bloomberg Open Interest on TV every day from 9 to 11, please shoot me an email, because I really am receptive to that kind of communication. I think we all are at Bloomberg. We really love the back and forth, the interactivity. So my email is mtmiller@bloomberg.net. So for whatever reason, I usually open them and reply, and I'd really love to hear from you. I hope you guys enjoy the final portion of the show. We still have a lot of cool stuff to come up in the next 40 or 50 minutes. So let's get it started.
Please welcome to the stage Amy Hopfinger, Chief Business and Strategy Officer of the FIFA World Cup 2026, and Alex Lasry, CEO of the New York, New Jersey Host Committee for the FIFA World Cup 2026, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Vanessa Perdomo.
We're talking World Cup here, guys. I want to see some excitement, okay? That's what I'm saying. We're only about 41 days out from the start of the World Cup. I've been talking about it nonstop for the last year. I can't imagine how you guys feel. Amy, about 41 days out, how are you feeling? Is everything done? Or how much can you really cram into that amount of time?
No, I mean, I think the hard work has been done. This has been a project that a lot of us have been working on going back to 2017. So it's been a long runway. Alex and I were actually talking about it this morning. We're ready for June 11th to get here. There's some work to do. There's some fields going in right now. There's some grass that's getting grown. But, you know, really the hard work, the planning that's gone into it, the work that the cities have done, the work that FIFA's done, have gotten us to a really good point, and I think we're just excited to get there.
Alex, I've been seeing some signage around. I start seeing the U.S. soccer gear on sale. I'm seeing, you know, the World Cup signage in bars and restaurants. Is there going to be a moment when we walk outside and we're like, oh my God, the World Cup's here. It's happening right now.
I think you're already starting to feel it, right? You're starting to see cities starting to, you know, dress up kind of their areas, and you're starting to see signage already going up on the stadiums. And I think everyone is starting to realize that we are, you know, 40 days away from the start of the World Cup. We're already planning a number of activations, and you know, we just announced our kind of 5-borough fan festival in New York City, free for all attendees. So I think we announced our Jersey fan hub in New Jersey. So you're starting to, I think, see all the announcement and everything starting to happen. And I think over the next 2-3 weeks, you're going to really start to see all these cities and areas really dressing up, and kind of you're going to start to have everyone feeling the World Cup in a way that they haven't before.
Is that what's left for you to do? It's building out the Fan Fest, or what else are you doing in this amount of time?
I think right now it's, one, making sure everyone truly knows that the World Cup is 40 days away and getting the excitement and energy ready for everybody. I think it's fine-tuning some of the details. And then kind of, I think, announcing everything that we have left. So I know for our region, we've got a number of really exciting announcements that are going to be coming out over the next 2-3 weeks as we're leading up, trying to build suspense and momentum for the World Cup. And I think try to put on a show that is worthy of our region. I think we really look at having a big responsibility being New York, New Jersey, and people having an expectation of coming to our area and expecting a certain level of showtime. And so I think for us, we're trying to make sure that we're putting the finishing touches and all of the final details on what that looks like, and then also adding as more exciting things kind of start to pop up. You're starting to see brands and everyone really starting to pay attention now and trying to say, oh, how can I get in before it's too late?
Feels late.
It's never too late. Never too late.
Amy, we had the Club World Cup in the US last year. We're having the World Cup this year. The Olympics are around the corner. Why is the US the right place to host all of these major international tournaments?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The Club World Cup really kicked off a decade of sports in the United States between the World Cup this year, you've got LA Olympics, you've got likely 2 Rugby World Cups, a Winter Olympics, a Women's World Cup most likely in 2031.
You heard it here. I'm excited for that
Technicalities. But this is the moment. So this is the moment for the United States to really set an example of what they can do on the large scale. I mean, you see it every day, day in and day out with sports leagues and teams, but really on the international side. So the U.S. hasn't hosted a World Cup since 1994, so 30 years. 30 years is way too long to wait to show off the United States. So the Club World Cup was a great start to that. It was a brand new tournament. We debuted something completely new in a very, very short runway. And it gained momentum as the tournament went on and ended up being a really great tournament. I think the World Cup has the opportunity to set that benchmark for major sporting events globally, as well as here in the United States, in Mexico and Canada. You've got an opportunity to meld what we do well in North America, entertainment, business, technology, and bring the world's largest sporting event to that. You really couldn't ask for anything bigger.
Alex, when we talked before, you had mentioned that New York has to host these sorts of things in order to stay the epicenter of the world. But also, when you look at what we've hosted in the last few years, we don't host many sporting events. And it's hard to say New York's not a sports town when the Knicks are in the playoffs, right? But why do you think right now is the right time to host? What do you think it's going to do for the city of New York hosting, the final of as well as the other games, and the state of New Jersey, I should say, because that's where the game is.
Yeah, so I think, how do we make our region continue to be the epicenter for sports, entertainment, and tourism? And I think that's one of the legacy items that we're hoping to have for this World Cup. And it's for the region, but it's also for the country, as Amy explained. When I was in the Commerce Department, we had a stat that was 10 to 15% of all tourists coming to the U.S. were now putting sporting events on their agendas. So sports, live entertainment, live events are becoming a significant tourism draw for countries. And what's then starting to happen is there's becoming more competition now. It used to be that you could only go to 5 or 6 cities, right? There was only so many cities or countries that had a stadium big enough or an arena big enough or anything like that. Now they're everywhere. And the competition to bring these prestigious events that not only produce, for us, it's going to be close to, a little over $3 billion of economic impact, but show who you are and put you on a level that you can't have if you're not hosting these type of events. And that's part of, I think, the expectation and responsibility of being a New York, New Jersey is saying, hey, not only are we going to have the World Cup, but we're going to have the final. And we're going to have the biggest sporting event that the world has ever seen. And we're going to put it on in a way that only New York, New Jersey can. And so I think, as Amy said, this is kicking off a decade of sports. For us, we want to be able to show, not only can we do the Club World Cup final and a World Cup final, but an Olympics needs to come here. Winter Olympics needs to come here. If you're, Taylor Swift needs to do another show here. I think
that's the big economy booster right there.
That's probably, it's like World Cup, Olympics, Taylor Swift. But those are, I think, the things that we're trying to show that if you're trying to have the biggest stars on the biggest stage in the capital of the world, you want to do it in New York, New Jersey, and that's where you're going to get the biggest event that you could possibly put on.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, when we're talking about the biggest event possible, this is the biggest, World Cup ever. It's the biggest sporting event of all time, 104 matches, 16 host cities, 3 countries. Obviously, it was going to be hard, but has it proved to be harder than you could have imagined?
No, I don't think it's been harder than we imagined. I think the dynamics continue to shift and change. I think early on we spent a lot of time educating people on what the World Cup was. We didn't necessarily need to do that in Mexico. We needed to do that a little bit more in the US and Canada. As time's gone on, those conversations have changed. I think, being in 3 countries, by virtue of that, we've got different dynamics than you might if you're hosting, a Super Bowl in one city. We're talking about cross-border relations. We're talking geopolitical situations that continue to change overnight in the world. You add on to that the way 11 cities in the U.S. work is almost like 11 countries in and of itself. I mean, we're sitting in Miami. Miami is, a very different city than Kansas City and very different than Los Angeles. So how do you have a World Cup that looks like one World Cup? But we also have the opportunity to make sure that each of those 3 countries and each of those 16 cities get a chance to show off, because this is the world's largest stage. I mean, we had 5 billion people interact with the World Cup in 2022. That number is incredible. That's more than half of the world's population. You had 1.5 billion people watch the finals, which is wild. So it is literally the eyes of the world. And how do we make sure that we put our best foot forward collectively as FIFA, collectively as the host cities and in the host countries?
And for the host cities, I know you guys talk a lot, but is it communication just on, strategy? Is it, what are you guys doing that we can help each other? Or is it just, well, we're doing this and that's it?
No, I think it's a lot of support and idea kind of sharing, right? Like every host city is different, right? There's no apples to apple comparison with any of them. As Amy said, it's 11 host cities. I would say 13 host countries, because we're a number of different regions just in ours alone. But I think every time I'm able to talk to, and I was saying this earlier today, the experience someone has in Philadelphia is going to affect their experience in New York. The experience that someone has in New York is going to affect their experience in LA. And what makes, again, the World Cup so unique is you're going to come to New York, you're then going to go to Philadelphia, you then might go to Kansas City, LA, San Francisco, right? Like you're going to be in more than one host city probably for your World Cup stay. And so how do we make sure that we're all working as one, right? We're not in competition. We're not fighting for different events. We're not fighting even for different fans. We're expecting all of our games to sell out anyway. I think what we're trying to do is provide an experience that makes all the fans feel that they had an incredible time. And I think ensuring that they leave here finding Amy and saying, do not make us wait another 30 years before the World Cup is back in the United States. And so I think with all of the host cities, it's whether it's our weekly calls or group text chains, it's, oh, hey, I saw that you were doing this this sponsorship thing. How did you do that? Where did that idea come from? And then being able to kind of pitch that, oh, what did you put in that package? Your fan experiences, right? Oh, how did you think about that? What led you to that decision? So it's a lot of sharing, and then hoping that one of those ideas kind of sparks something that can make ours better. The other thing I've always told my team is go visit other events. So we try to make sure that our staff goes to football games, other soccer games, basketball, like whatever, concerts, right, and visit other stadiums. See what it's like to be there. We sent our security team to the NBA All-Star game to see what they do. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get an idea, because while we're in the sports business, we are also in the event business, and the only way you can know how to put on what is probably going to be the most unique event that we've all put on is to go to other events. My wife hates that I call that work, but it is technically work.
We're all working in Miami right now. Okay?
Going to the Super Bowl is work, unfortunately.
Alex, you had talked about, how every host city is different and you're all, talking, but everyone's handling different situations, uniquely. When we're talking about transportation, a lot's been said about the way New York and New Jersey has been handling that, and Boston and these other places that have really high transportation prices. $150 train ticket to get to MetLife. Can you give us a little bit clarity on how that's decided and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're talking about transportation or anything kind of happening for an event, there are a lot of factors that go into it. And, I empathize with kind of where, the governor of New Jersey, had to land. I think she said, very specifically. this is not something that can fall on the taxpayers. And look, for me, I am just in charge of the host committee and trying to put on the World Cup. The governor of New Jersey, governor of New York, mayor of New York has a million different things and a million different calculations and factors that they have to come into any decision that they make. And so I think what we're trying to do, what the governor of New Jersey, New York, and mayor of New York, I think what all of us want is to make sure that we are providing a fan experience that whether you're inside or outside the stadium, you feel good about and you feel excited about. And it's why I think, you've also seen the governor of New Jersey say, hey, I'm going to put up, $5 million in a grant program to stand up watch parties all across the state so fans are able to go experience all that New Jersey has to offer so that the state of New Jersey can get the economic impact that FIFA and all of us are promising. You saw the mayor of New York similarly announce we announced all of our five borough fan fests that are going to be free to fans. So I think what makes the World Cup so unique is not just what happens on the pitch, it's also what happens off the pitch. And the one thing FIFA has been, the one thing they just hammer to me all the time is the experience in the stadium. You need to provide that same kind of experience outside the stadium, that same fun. And if anyone who can't come in needs to be able to know that the World Cup was still able to come to them and they were still able to participate. And the World Cup, when we look at the millions of people we're expecting, a lot of those people probably are coming not to actually go inside the stadium. They're coming for the fan experiences and to be a part of the World Cup experience. And so I think for us, what we want to do is be able to say, look, if you feel like going to the game is out of reach, which it might be for some fans, and I get that, here are all the other free and affordable and accessible experiences that, from my vantage point, are going to be just as good, right? Rockefeller Center is one of the most iconic spaces in the world, and having a fan village there, free watch party to go and be a part of, is, I think, going to be one of the most memorable images of the World Cup. The U.S. Tennis Center, Sports Illustrated Stadium, these are all going to be iconic spaces to watch games, be a part of it. And I think when you actually see a lot of the images from past World Cups, it is from these fan fests. It is from these out-of-stadium experiences because there's a lot of energy and excitement that goes to it. And so we want to make sure that we understand, look, if the game can feel out of reach, how do we make sure that the experiences outside the stadium are going to feel just as impactful and have just as much energy and make you feel just as excited about being part of the experience.
Those are some of the best videos, is watching the fan fest and all of the beer and the water goes everywhere. Amy, as you had spoken about the geopolitical situation and all the different countries and working with that, and the visa situation in every country is very different. We just recently saw that Iran was on their way to the FIFA conference, got turned away because of the situation with the visas. So how do you make sure something like that doesn't happen when they come for the tournament? Or, how do all the different visa situations work, and how can you make sure that doesn't happen when people come over for the tournament?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to clarify, they were going into Canada, not the United States.
Yes.
This is something we've been working on from day one. So we've got a great close working relationship with the U.S. government, with the State Department. We obviously had a little bit of a trial run last year with Club World Cup. We debuted the FIFA Pass, which was an opportunity for fans that were in countries where visa wait times were longer than the time where they bought their ticket to the World Cup to have a fast pass, pun intended, to get a visa. Obviously still need to qualify for a visa. We've been working with State Department on identifying locations for teams and fans to go if their embassy is closed, given the situation going on in the Middle East. We've been working on team visas, staff visas, media visas, every type of visa under the sun for the last few years. And I would say, it's moving. It will never be, not everyone will ever be happy. You still need to qualify for a visa. The US government still needs to grant you a visa, but we are making sure as FIFA that we provide every opportunity for individuals to apply, and if they are eligible, to make sure that they have the opportunity to get their visa.
Obviously, we spoke about, those things that a lot of people are talking about, these days. But Amy, do you think that sometimes leading up to this event that people get lost in the headlines and they kind of forget what the tournament is supposed to really be for?
We are living that. Absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a little bit this morning. Alex called it silly season. I think that's very accurate. It's that time where everyone's now paying attention, which is awesome and great, but we're still 41 days away from the first ball being kicked. So there's a lot of space to fill. There's a lot of headlines to write, and unfortunately we don't have the game. We don't have the team side of it to really talk about. Rosters will come out in the next couple weeks. Then that kind of starts to transition into the actual football, which is why we're all here. We're here for the game. But in this space, we get it. We understand. We know. There's conversations about transit prices. There's conversations about FanFest. There's conversations about preparedness. We know that. We live it. We feel comfortable with where we are. We feel comfortable with the next 41 days.
Alex, as we wrap up here, do you think, no matter what's been said so far, everything is just gonna be settled by the time the first ball's kicked?
Better be. Yes. I mean, I think whenever anyone who's ever planned an event like this, it can always feel like things are happening at the last minute, but they're not. These are years of planning, and then everyone just starts to pay attention. And that's when then just a flurry of articles start to come out, and it feels like everything's just happening right now. At the end of the day, though, we've been planning this. I've been on for about a year and a half. It's been Amy's been doing this for 4 or 5 plus years. This is a long time of planning. I have definitely, people have said, "Oh, do you want more time?" I've always said I want less time. Like, I want the games to happen. We want to be able to right now give the fans what they're excited about. When we owned the Bucks, the worst time was always the 4 to 6 weeks before the season started. You always it's when there's the most anticipation, but also as I call it, the silly season. There's just most appetite for that. And so, for us on June 13th, we're going to be ready. We are very excited for the games and especially for our slate of group stage games that we have. The region is really excited. You start to talk to people on the ground, and everyone, people are starting to get excited about the fact that, hey, the World Cup's going to be here, the world's going to be here. People are going to be paying attention to the region in a way that hasn't happened before. Amy mentioned, but just to put those numbers into perspective, the last World Cup final was viewed by the same amount of people as the last 13 Super Bowls combined. This is,
you said it.
Yeah, this is a big deal. This isn't just, this isn't any other, football match. This is it. This happens once every 4 years, and to have it here for the first time in 30 years is also going to just make it that much bigger. There's no bigger media market than the United States, no bigger media market than New York, New Jersey. You've got this is kind of the biggest, I think, area of untapped potential for football. So June 13th, we're going to be ready. We're excited to welcome the world here and to be able to show them, in my opinion, how the United States does the World Cup.
That's right. All right. We're really excited for it. Go USA. Amy, Alex, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Impossible. It's just a word, an illusion. Meet tenacity, an energy running through 120,000 technology experts, fueling steady ideas. It says, bring it on. Because Success doesn't fall out of nowhere. It's made. Impossible? We call it Tuesday.
Please welcome to the stage Dan Gray, Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Global Infrastructure Services at DXC Technology, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Christine Cooke.
Well, hello everybody. There's a really good chance that you don't know the name or company DXC, and there's an even stronger chance that the insurance company, the technology company, the airline, or your bank completely knows who DXC is. So I'm really excited to be here with Dan and get into a little bit of that. So while DXC might not be a household name, around the world it supports so many different companies. So why don't we start by what part of DXC are you involved?
Sure, and thanks for all being here and the opportunity to speak to you all. So DXC, we often say, is the company that really matters, but not everybody knows about. We often say we are the company that runs the systems that run the world. And as CTO, I have the privilege of leading a team of 45,000 technology professionals that operate some of the most complex systems on the planet and ensure that they're running in a secure and performant way.
And so in managed services, there's a lot of disruption with AI in the mix. Talk a little bit about how that's impacting DXC and how you all are embracing that.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is great timing. This week we actually launched a new product called DXC Oasis, which is squarely aimed at this AI disruption. It's a recognition that with AI, managed services is an inflection point. Over the years, we've went through an outsourcing era, a tooling era, but what that's resulted in is still a very manually intensive operation, where individuals are still having to click buttons, orchestrate across 18 tabs in their browser, those type of activities. And what we're seeing now is we're stepping into what we're calling the intelligence era, and DXC Oasis has been built in response to that, whereby we bring together the best of human intelligence, and actually, more importantly, the judgment and the knowledge that they have, and then agents which focus on the operations that happen at high frequency, high velocity. We're really excited about DXC Oasis. We believe that it is defining a new category of managed services, specifically human plus agentic, and collapsing the line between services and software.
Services and software, you're flipping the script on that too, right?
Absolutely.
So when you think about, for this audience, since they're just figuring out how important what you do is in everything that they do, what is that one thing in this moment that you would want them to take away for DXC?
Yeah, first of all, a better awareness of who DXC are, and I think we've achieved that, hopefully. But secondly, just the decades of knowledge that we have that we're encoding into agentic AI and defining a new way of delivering mission-critical managed services where we're pairing human and agents together.
So AI isn't just changing what IT can do, it's changing the entire business model. So thank you so much for sharing with everybody, and to DXC for sponsoring today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the stage, Kyle Cooke, founder of Loverboy, and Jason Tartick, co-founder of Rewired Talent Management, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Meg Szabo.
Hello, everybody. Our last session of the day. Thank you all for being here today. We're so excited to be in Miami. Want to bring a lot of energy for our last session, so please give it up for Kyle Cooke and Jason Tartick.
Thank you.
So we are here for what I am very personally invested in, which is talking about the business of influence and how influencers have turned social media, reality TV, into a business. And these are two that have been at it for a very good amount of time and really know how to think about this as a business. So I'd love to start with both of you just sharing a little bit more about your stories, how you've gotten to where you are today. Kyle, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Sure. Well, how you doing, everybody? I didn't know we were the last panel. So the only thing between us and happy hour
yes,
is
exactly.
a quick little combo. So funny enough, when I started helping cast summer houses 2015 and influencer marketing was not a thing, I was thinking about it from a product placement standpoint and how you can integrate your business into the storytelling of reality television. And there was also a side of me that just wanted to do it because I was already in the Hamptons paying to be there. And I just think it's been a pretty wild ride. I mean, my second season, I made $60,000. There was no brand partnerships. Like I said, it was the early days of building a following that you would then hope to convert into customers of something that you care about. Fast forward to today when I have friends that enter the second season, they're making millions on the brand partnerships. So it has been a wild ride in terms of just how different some of the outcomes are. I'll just end with, I think that reality television plays a very interesting role because of the relatability of the storytelling.
Right.
And so if you can build something that people care about, I can convert at a much higher ratio than just about anybody with a following on Instagram. And I think that just speaks to how much reality television plays a role in pop culture and influencer marketing.
Yeah, definitely. Jason?
Yeah, I think reality TV creates the attention, and right now individuals are becoming entities, and then you own everything that you're doing, and it gives you direct distribution. So for me, I had an MBA in finance. I was in the banking industry. I went on The Bachelorette. I came in third. I got dumped before the fantasy suites. I didn't know what to expect. Went back to work, and one day I get a call from somewhere like, Jason, we liked this scene in the show. We got $15,000 for you to take a photo and take a photo of you with a weighted blanket. And I'm like, what the hell? A photo of a weighted blanket? All right, let's do it. And I quickly realized the analytics and the business behind that and how you can actually see the numbers that were converting from a post in 2018. And being in the banking industry, I saw so many businesses, I saw so many margins, and I was like, this is game changing right here. Something's happening. Fast forward, that was 2018, it's now 2026. I have a top business and entrepreneur podcast where the theme is we are taught the things that we weren't taught in school as it relates to financial transparency and personal finance and career navigation. I published 2 books. One's on career navigation, the other one's on love and money. I went on a couple book tours, and I own an agency now. Because what I was thinking was, this might die in 2018, but if I can work with other people, and I could make 10 to 20% of what they're doing, I just need 5 of those people to supplement what I'm doing, and I could go off in the sunset. And fast forward 2026, the creator business for me is the highest it's been. The agency has grown to levels we never imagined. We produce podcasts. We represent people exclusively and non-exclusively. We do events at the Super Bowl and F1 and Hamptons and Art Basel and all those things. And the business has grown to a level I just never expected. All from The Bachelorette.
For getting dumped.
All for getting dumped.
Yeah, and getting dumped. Kyle, could you talk, Jason just shared a little bit about some of his businesses. Obviously, we have...
This is my baby.
Loverboy. Can you tell us a little bit more about Loverboy?
Well, first couple seasons, the fan base is just getting to know me. I was working on a nutrition coaching app that nobody cared about. Ironically, I'm known for my late night snacking, so it was very counterintuitive. What people did want to know was what we were drinking. And I almost felt guilty telling them because the products... if you've noticed, alcohol products don't have nutrition facts or ingredients on them more often than not. And the drinks that we were drinking were absolutely horrible for you. Half the time you wake up with a hangover, it's because of the sugar or the additives. So Loverboy was the first ever better for you, all natural, zero sugar hard tea. We have a line of zero sugar spritzes and low sugar cocktails. To Jason's point, some of these products we actually can sell online which is very unique for an alcohol supplier. We're usually multiple tiers behind the consumer with no real direct relationship with them. I built a brand that is digital first. We launched on the show. We actually gave people a behind the scenes look at what it's like to start, launch, manage, and deal with the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, all while partying in the Hamptons. And so Loverboy has gone through a roller coaster of a ride, you know, and it is kind of built on the premise that I can acquire a customer for near zero as long as I can get product to them. And distribution in alcohol is the hardest part of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm 7 years in and running this, and it's been quite the ride.
So one of the things I think that's a little interesting being on reality TV, working as an influencer, is that balance between personal and professional. Obviously, a lot of other people don't have to deal with that in their normal careers. How do you kind of and obviously, you know, you have a little something personal going on that has
there's a little elephant in the room.
Elephant.
We're going through a very public split that got very complicated.
So how do you kind of balance the you know, the ups and downs of that, and how can you kind of use it to your advantage, or, you know?
Well, one thing we share in common, we both went through very public breakups. So I'll let you go first.
I'll go first. Yeah, I'll take this one. Think about it for a second. I think right now, more than ever, probably the most important currency out there in 2026 is social currency. We're on our phones on average 7 to 8 hours a day. We look at our phone for about 100 notifications per day. If you look at Gen Alpha and Gen Z, they're spending all their time on social media. And so whether it's politics, education, business leadership, non-for-profit, whatever you're doing, today you have to have a social presence. And if you do have a strong social currency, your rate of impact is going to multiply significantly. So to tie into this question about sharing your personal life, I think everyone here can relate to, you get back at home, maybe your wife, your husband, your partner, whoever it is, and something happened in the neighborhood. There's a divorce, there's a breakup, there's a scandal, there's an affair, you know, someone just bought a new house or got a new job, and it's the talk. And what I have learned is that that happens in every community. And it's your personal situation, it's your personal diary. Yeah. When you bring that to life on social media, you have to be very careful. But you can also make a lot of impact, because what I've learned is that empowerment is tied to vulnerability, and vulnerability is connection. And through heartbreak and through sadness and successes and learning lessons, on social media, you could build a community that you can share what it's like to go through the hardest times and inspire someone who's also going through a hard time. You could go through a financial constraint and teach someone a lesson they never would have been taught. You can have the most happiness you've ever found in a relationship, but had to find it through 4 breakups and really tough situations. And through that, because of our phones and because of social currency, you can build communities outside of your dinner table or outside your neighborhood. And so to me, knowing that currency has such an impact and can also be a business that you can do things through your individual entity, to me, it's really important. And I think change is the only constant, but the one change that's going nowhere is the value of social currency. And that's why I'm so okay with sharing things that happen in my personal life. And a lot of things on social media, it's a personal diary just out there for a lot of people.
The key word in our industry, which is reality television, unscripted television, and it's so overused, but it is spot on, is vulnerability.
Yeah.
And that is how you connect. It's not being the most successful. In fact, if my business was already, you know, built up and successful, there's no story to follow. So when you slap your name on something, like, and there's no buildup, and no anticipation, and you can't bring people along for the ride. Now, I've been on 14 seasons of television, hundreds of episodes across 3 different TV shows. My entire 10-year relationship, from dating to my proposal, marriage, wedding, and now divorce, has been on television. And I think sometimes my emotions get the best of me, but I think the reason I'm one of the network's go-tos is because I am vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I've learned to be vulnerable about my business. So I was very open and honest on an episode of Summer House this season where I talked about my putting $500,000 back into the business and literally using it to cover payroll. And we saw an outpouring of support. I'd done $1.5 million in direct to consumer this month alone. Well, what's today? May 1st? In April.
April 30th. April 30th.
And it's been absolutely remarkable to just see the loyalty that, I mean, look, Bravo is a unique kind of specimen within the reality TV world. We literally do BravoCon in Vegas, and it kind of is what it sounds like. So I just feel very lucky to be part of such an incredible platform. And that's really what it is. It is a platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to go to BravoCon, so maybe this year is the year. So to turn back to Rewired and you starting Rewired Talent Management, you are a client of Rewired. Can you talk a little bit about how the two of you started to work together?
Yeah, so I think it's all, especially with management, it's customization. Every single person that we work with has a different story, and it needs to be customized appropriately, and chapters change. And for Kyle, a lot of chapters have changed. He now works with DJ management. He has his own TV shows. He's producing shows. He owns his own business, and then can monetize through digital. So we're one of the first agencies that is run by creators, advised by creators, and for creators. One of the best things about that is the efficiency in which we can change processes, because the same creators that are managing and advising are the same creators that are going through it. And I think one thing with Kyle that's been a pleasure to work with is just customization based on what's happening in his life. So, you know, maybe it's a divorce and he's got to get a new apartment, and we can tell a story through his real life also while he's using apartments.com, and apartments.com can benefit significantly. And I think just in general, if you look at like the Super Bowl model, we all know how much advertisements go for Super Bowl, 30 seconds, right? $7-8 million. I would say, and I'm just guessing, and I haven't seen Kyle's numbers, but I would say if I go to Kyle's Instagram page over the last 60 days, he probably has as many eyeballs on his page as the Super Bowl will see in one segment of the Super Bowl. And so these companies can now work through his storytelling, and they can see the immediate analytics. There is no subjectivity when they decide to partner with Kyle. They can see where the people are watching, the click-through rate, the conversion, the impressions, the demographic, the ages, the locations, and that's why the efficiency of this space is growing at a compound annual growth rate of 22% a year and more in creator economy. And so working with someone like Kyle and across all different niches, it's become so much fun because you get so creative with organic placement to truly what's happening in his life.
Yeah. And I'm a bit of an outlier. Like I have an MBA as well. Like the whole TV thing was a bit of an accident, candidly. And you know, I actually run my own business. I am the CEO. I'm not just like the talking head, right. Which, you know, there's a lot of celebrity brands, and you know, again, I'm a bit of an outlier. When I look at my pickups and I negotiate my contracts with NBCU, I'm actually doing it myself. I'm like, I've been unmanaged forever. So when it's actually, we got started working together because I did his podcast. And I kind of picked up on, you know, their early days of the agency. And I was like, listen, like if I go to one of the big agencies, they're going to look at what I've already negotiated for 10 years now and want a cut of that for doing nothing. Because that's how their business model works.
Right.
So I never signed with any of the big agencies because I'm just like, listen, I can negotiate my own contracts. Thank you very little. And so what was unique about Jason is he's like, dude, we don't need to touch what we don't work on. Let's get you some brand deals that are on brand that I can actually convert. More often than not, I'm already a consumer of the brands that we end up working with. So.
Yeah.
But I think disruption's the main thing. Like right now, everything is being disrupted. And part of my answer and Kyle's answer to his business is like customize and change. And so that's what we've been trying to do, just customize, change, because cookie cutter in today's digital world, it just doesn't work. Even the shift from like traditional film to like what's happening on digital and the way money's moving and how it's created, it's just change is the only constant, and you have to be willing to disrupt, otherwise your model will get disrupted.
Well, look at Peacock. So when I was on TV, it was the beginning of the streaming and content creation boom, and they didn't even know how to like look at our ratings to figure out if they should renew the show because TV consumption was just rapidly changing. And I got to give credit to NBCU. I mean, they have done a phenomenal job with Peacock. So and more people are now watching Summer House on Peacock than cable.
Right. And to your point, it's just like the amount of data that you can collect is so much better than it used to be.
It just drives efficiency from a CMO down to the conversion like we've never seen in marketing, and that's why it's growing so fast.
The analytics, it's just, I was showing Jason my analytics on a post I did last night, kind of opened up about, you know, this week's episode. I wish I had invested in my friend's, you know, business. I wasn't in a position because I was investing in my own.
Yeah.
So I put up a post. I didn't even see the numbers last, but I mean, the engagement. I mean, millions of people in the last 24 hours.
It's crazy.
So it's just, it's an incredible platform that gives you direct feedback.
Yeah.
I think something cool too is we had, for my spark to happen, I had to go on reality TV. That's not the case anymore. Like anybody with a phone and a cool message, education, comedic relief, whatever it is, some passion, overnight we will get calls at our agency weekly of someone just blowing up. Going from maybe being, maybe they're a server at a restaurant and now they're making millions of dollars within 2 weeks. And so what I think is so cool is like, you go to these situations, events in life, you meet people and you're like, that person's special, but they never have had the chance to be like seen or never got their talent out there. There is no excuse now because you could just take your phone and show the world your magic and so much can change your life instantly, which I just think is so cool because it just ignites creativity.
Yeah.
And there's obviously some downside and some areas that need improvement with social media, but I also think there's so much upside as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So this went by so fast. We just have a couple minutes left. So I did want to end on kind of what's next. So I'm very happy to hear Loverboy is in a better place than it's showing currently on the season.
It's been pretty remarkable. But
yeah, what's next for you and Loverboy and everything?
So we have a lot of different direct-to-consumer products that we've never sold through retail. Part of that is figuring out some of our distribution challenges. We are looking for an operational partner, but my hope, even though I've been running this day to day, for 7+ years, I'd love to be able to like do what I'm good at, which is certainly not like negotiate distribution agreements and call up, a wholesaler in the middle of America to try to figure out what's going on. I'd love to be able to do more content creation and give people a better look, behind the scenes, because I can't rely on, to Jason's point, I can't rely on Bravo to capture everything. I need to be creating content on my own. Like, you don't need a TV show now every brand under the sun needs to put their founder and their leadership team in front of the camera. I mean, that is how you build brands of today and tomorrow. So my plan is to kind of get out of the day-to-day and focus more on like the content creation side and, free myself up a little.
And DJ?
And DJing. I fly to Chicago tomorrow to DJ, so I won't be sticking around. I love music and I ended up DJing. A little midlife crisis, no big deal.
I love it.
Well, you're very good at it, or so I have. I haven't seen you in real life, but yeah, so I've been told.
You can throw a party, that's for sure.
And Jason, you?
Yeah, so at Rewired, we've been bootstrapped since day one, been profitable since day one, so I definitely want to do like a raise. We have started a podcast division. We now represent Madison Keys, Jesse Pagula, Des Krawchuk, and Jenny Brady, the top 4 women's tennis players podcast, which is doing really well. So now we're in the podcast division, but we really need capital to grow. So that's kind of a focus.
Yeah.
And then what's cool is like I get to wear this business hat, but also this like creator talent hat, and you just never know what's going to happen. I don't know how much I can share, but I literally just got back from an island filming a show with Netflix where you were competing and surviving, and it was wild.
I was almost on it.
Which is, you were almost
I was like, I got to run Loverboy. I can't go to, can I say where it is?
No, but it's kind of the roulette wheel that we live in. You just never know what's going to come.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just like when you're passionate about what you do and you're excited about what you do. And for 10 years in banking, I wasn't, and I burnt out, and I was an empty suit. And to find just excitement about what you're doing, it feels like it's like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
There's no more, I was such a blueprint career guy. Like you go here to go here to go here. And now it feels like a mosaic. And like to me, that's so much more fun.
Yeah, and you never get bored because
bored.
every day is probably very different. So.
And the fear, we've talked a lot about the good side. The fear is just like that, it could get shut down. It could get shut off.
Yeah.
And so preparing for those things
Having a lot of different, like you said, diversifying so that.
I never would have thought Summer House would be going 10 years strong.
Yeah.
That's just insanity in the TV world.
More popular than ever.
Biggest show like on TV right now.
Yeah.
It gets a little overwhelming, but I think I was built for it. So.
Yeah, I would say too. You've got staying power for sure. Well, Jason, Kyle, this was so fun. Thank you so much for joining us here. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you, Bloomberg.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
All right, that's a wrap. Really appreciate everyone who joined us. It's been for me, an exciting, 24 hours almost now. And of course, we still have the main event coming up this weekend. So I hope all of you are going to get a chance to see some racing as well. We still have one more day of trading. So I am going to fly back to New York City and open the New York Stock Exchange tomorrow morning. But I'm really looking forward to the race this weekend. I'll be watching it on television, which is a better place anyway. I want to wholeheartedly thank our sponsors, our presenting sponsor, Corient, for helping us make this happen. Bloomberg House, I think, worked out so well in Davos, and it's been so great here. So I hope it's something that we can repeat. Our supporting sponsors, DXC Technology, which we just saw detailed a little bit earlier. So thank you to them, as well as Okta. And I hope all of you enjoyed our content and also have met some people here. There is a lot still happening at Bloomberg House, so definitely stick with us throughout the weekend. It's going to be a fantastic time to be in Miami. I guess most of you are from Miami, but for me, it's pretty exciting. And we are going to get you all some drinks. Adam Katz is going to come out here from Corient and give me mine, and then we are going to make a toast. And I hope, does everybody have a drink? Does everybody not, do we toast without them having a drink?
Looks
we wait till they have a beverage?
We have drinks.
Well, I guess we are going to drink to a job well done. So thank you so much, Adam.
So I'll be very, very quick, but this is a year of a lot of clinking for me. So I'm turning 50 in 29 days, and I'm celebrating a 25-year wedding anniversary. So you can imagine, pretty good. Obviously, half my life I've been married, which is interesting because there wasn't that much going on before 10, so you could argue it's more than half. But, people always ask me as you go through milestones, how are things? And I tell everyone I'm having by far the most fun I've ever had in my life, for all different reasons. But part of it is actually what Corient is, which is going to sound like a little bit of a commercial, but this is easy to talk about when you feel so passionate. And the reason why I bring this up is it has some parallels to the racing, which I'll bring up in about 1 minute. So I used to work at a very, very large national wealth management firm, many of you would know, may rhyme with Terrell, and I love that place. It was 20 years of my life. And if you think about it as a big building on the street, sitting next to Corient as a big building on the street, there were 100 doors you could enter that firm through, similar to the 100 doors that Corient has. The difference was, depending on which door you'd knock on or ring the doorbell, you'd get trapped in the room with the person who happened to open the door for you, with whatever resources they happened to have and the other kind of clients they worked with. And at Corient, no matter what door you knock on, you get access to the whole building and all of the best people that can help you most specifically run to the door to help. And for us, that to us is all about collaboration and about synergy. And when I think about racing, there's so much specificity to pattern recognition and laps and repetitions. And in our world, that goes down to an advisor who's going to help an entertainer is radically different than an advisor who's going to help an attorney, which is radically different to the kind of people I help, which is entrepreneurs and founders. So, to me, the idea of specialization and reps and pattern recognition wrapped with tremendous empathy that we have for those clients knocking on the door just puts me in a great mood all day long. So enjoy your drinks to a great rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Here. Cheers.